Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode talking about AI. This is going to be a unique one in the sense that we're not going to be talking about ChatGTP, but I think an equally powerful AI. And of course, in order to do that, I got to bring on Logan Monday with Logan Monday AI. Welcome back, Logan.
Hey, Ryan. Great to have to be here with you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely, for sure, for sure. You actually put together a presentation on Google Bard, and I know ChatGTP is kind of the king of the hill from a media point of view. I don't know about usage. I don't know if anybody's provided stats. That would be interesting, how many people are using which one. Do you happen to know by chance?
I know that Google ChatGPT is dominating right now as the leading chatbot by a wide margin, but we're going to talk today about why Google Bard is having the capabilities to close that.
Yeah, and it's I think as you're getting into things, one of the things we talked about last week's show is don't get overwhelmed. So find something that works, do it. However, I find that ChatGTP does have limitations that Bard has. And one of the big ones for me is the ability to actively have Bard work in the internet. So it's dealing with active current information versus ChatGTP. I forget, what is its cutoff date? Do you remember?
September 2021.
Okay. So if you want to say, hey, check out my website and do you have any reference and thoughts, ChatGTP is going to go, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. Bard can't. And from, I'm a marketing guy, so SEO, keyword research, all of those things. When you have the chance, go directly to the source. ChatGTP is not the source when it comes to SEO, keyword research, and all of those types of things. So go to the source, which is Bard.
That's right. And the great thing about Google Bard is that a lot of what its capabilities are built into Google. So you're not having to go through a lot of clicks to tell Bard what to do. It's already ready and set up to go.
Right. And you did say earlier or before that we started the show that there is a requirement for getting the most out of Bard being connected to your business account.
Yeah. That's why I was so excited to talk about Google Bard with you today. For all the small businesses, you, myself, anyone else that's out there on Google, we've got those Google business profiles, and those really matter. And that visibility is going to be directly connected into Google Bard. So learning what Google Bard can do is going to be a benefit for your business on Google.
All right, for sure. Okay. Should we just go ahead and jump into the presentation then?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, perfect. Here we go.
Great. Yeah. So I've got a background in education. I like to do PowerPoints. So it's a little that teacher format there for you. But this is about making AI for you and having it be your assistant. And as we go through, if you feel like fist bumping the AI, just don't do it to your screen. It might not work as well. But eventually one day, I think we'll maybe be able to do that. And for those of you who are new here to the show, my name is Logan Monday. Yes, like the day. I'm with Logan Monday AI. I'm a techie, a Tennessean, and a traveler. And what I do is that I'm an AI trainer and consultant. And simply put, that means I make AI work for you, which is what brought Ryan and I together and why we're here today.
Yeah, and it really is. I mean, what's nice about it is instead of trying to struggle, because pretty much all the information that Logan has available, you could find for free on the internet. Let's face it, these days, you can just jump on YouTube. You can find the answer to whatever you want. However, how much time and energy is it going to take you to get from where you're at to where you want to be? And obviously working with somebody who already has the solution is going to get you from A to B much quicker and hopefully explain it in a way that is easier to digest.
Yeah, and that's such a great point. And I'll just kind of share a personal experience from doing my business. I originally had like a pre-recorded training course, and it just didn't work because the way that we can all use AI is so personal that I could not physically make enough videos to answer every question that someone might have. And so that's why I do the personal, live in person or on video through Zoom training sessions. So we can talk about what matters to people in their business and their life and come up with the right solutions for them. And that's the great thing about AI, but it's also, the never ending,
Right.
quest to figure it out.
Yeah. And it's going to be, it'll be interesting because I think about when smartphones came out, and for a lot of people, they really struggled with it. And then obviously there's a generation that is young adult now that grew up with smartphones. They never knew a world without. So for them, it's
Mhm.
like, this is very intuitive. I've been doing it my whole life.
That's right.
And it'll be interesting that generation who grows up on AI, what that experience will be like for them. So
Yeah,
anyway.
and speaking of growing up with AI, that's a great point. And if you'll go through to that to the next slide,
Mhm.
something that my background with education, and I really enjoy the context of things. And AI has always been with us, basically since after World War II.
Hmm.
But we never called it AI; we called it software. And
Right.
so they had like different types of terms for it. Handcrafted knowledge, which is what you use in Excel and TurboTax. It's the stuff where like you input it in a field and then one thing gets wrong and the whole website doesn't work.
Right.
That's AI. That's handcrafted knowledge. And then what we know with the internet came about in the mid 90s called machine learning. And that's how Facebook, Talk, YouTube,
Right.
Twitter, all of those came about on the internet because of machine learning.
Right.
And when we go through on the next slide, we just didn't think about it that way. We didn't think of it as AI because it was just something that we plugged into the wall and it dialed up and
Right.
AOL popped up and that's what we got on with. But it
Did
was
hold on,
AI.
I gotta ask, were you actually one of those that had to dial into AOL?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Okay, because I remember that screeching modem sound distinctly, and that's how I learned to type without looking at, because I could type with my fingers, not hunt and peck like some people do, but I always had to look at the keyboard while I was doing it. Well, you jump in that AOL chat room back in the day, they got so many people in the conversations, like Twitter just goes and you couldn't
Right.
look. I couldn't look down, otherwise I'd lose the conversation. So that's how I learned how to actually talk. And then the other interesting thing, I remember this from years ago with Facebook, was that somebody stated, and I believe it was a news article, that Facebook knew when people were getting together and going to break up. They had, a high success rate of being able to figure that out simply by looking at your feed and determine, and being able to, that AI being able to identify changes in behavior, I'm assuming, and they would then modify ad responses to you based on that. And we're talking
So
that's
if
10
you were
plus years ago, I
typing
would
and
imagine.
texting at 2 a.m., they figured you were not with your girlfriend.
Yeah. Probably.
Uh, well, that ties us into the third category of AI, which we called software. Now, this is when it kind of evolved in a different way from what we'd experienced before. So, neural nets came about, and they were machine learning algorithms that were connected together. They're built on the same type of structure that our brain's built on, so it's layered. And Amazon was the one that really nailed it. That's why all those personalized shopping recommendations, ads on Google, Intercom with their chatbots, and Netflix with their recommendations for what you want to watch based on how many times you've seen what type of movies or whatnot.
Right.
That was when it kind of like went into overdrive, and we really got to see the difference between, we all had a personal experience on Facebook. Now it became a personalized template that businesses were using for each user.
Right. And that's when people started saying, stop logging into my Netflix account because you're messing up my search preferences.
Yeah.
I don't want to see those chick flicks anymore. Log into your own account.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that is exactly. We've
you
all
have
had
not
that
experienced that or experienced that in the ways that I have then. So that's quite all right.
I love it. So the next thing, but okay, so what brought us today with, like, why did ChatGPT change the game? Why was everyone talking about it? And why did Google decide to get ahead with Google Bard? Google actually came out with and created Google Bard before ChatGPT, but they kind of put a hold on it because of they were concerned about ethics and privacy. And OpenAI did their cutoff date of September 2021 to kind of address that. And so they just released it, and then Google was like, "Oh, well, we gotta do it now. Like, we'll get left behind." So they've been working overtime, and what that's called is generative AI. There are other companies that use it too, like Jasper with copywriting. But really, Google Bard is going to be the one that really tries to challenge OpenAI.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'm curious to see where it goes, because I'm definitely finding that depending on the use case, I have three primary tools as far as AI that I'll use, because I feel one does better at this than the other, which is kind of, you know, it's a little frustrating when you're learning, but once you get the prompts down and the SOPs down on how you're going to do it, then it's like, okay, no big deal. And again, I kind of take it the equivalent of, you know, first trying to figure out, what do you mean there's no buttons on the screen? How do I make a phone call? You know, those were real struggles that people had with the technology. And then once you get used to it, and obviously the technology is going to get better and better also.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about the tech getting better, Google's really focused on trying to integrate Google search interfaces with Google Bard so that it's very similar. So what they've done behind the scenes, so to speak, is that they have taken the Google ecosystem and connected it straight into Google Bard. Right. So when you go into your chat on Google Bard and you're talking to it and you're getting responses and you have it create an email, and then you want that to be turned into a Google Doc, it connects directly to that. And so you can do that. And you can even, if you didn't want to draft it out, you could just connect it right into Gmail and send it away.
Right, right. And I have very specific use cases for Bard at this time, but it's independent of the rest of the Google suite. Is it actually, do you know, connected directly into Sheets and Docs and Gmail, where I can actually interact with Bard right within my files that I'm working in?
I know that they still have that with Google Assistant. I think there's a bit of a wavy bridge about that. Like, I think some people have some access to be able to do that, and like very limited, and others do not. I know that is an ultimate goal for them.
Right. Okay. All right. But you do, so we are working within Bard, we're able to work with Google in real time, which is huge if you want current up-to-date information versus ChatGPT as an example.
Yeah. And that's what's so cool about it, is that you'll be able to, you know, export those chat responses and put them in your Google Docs or in that suite. And if you're, you know, working with someone that you need to translate it, it can translate those language into 100 different languages for you, which is something that ChatGPT just isn't there yet.
Okay. I wasn't aware. I figured that translation can't be that difficult, just considering how long we've been doing it. But I would imagine for them, it's really about resources. What are we going to focus on? And it would be interesting. I'm trying to remember, there was something that came up a couple of years ago. I remember people, I don't know if it was music, they would get the YouTube, because YouTube will automatically do closed captioning for articles. And so they would then go to Google translate it into whatever language, and then take that and translate it back into English. And some of the results were quite funny, simply because, you know, there aren't necessarily specific words in English that there are in other countries, and vice versa. So there is a translation of like, is this word better for what they mean, or is this word better? So when you do it both ways, interesting results can come out. So I think back to basics when it comes to AI or anything that you do, always double check and just, you know, verify to the best of your abilities.
Yeah, Google Translate's pretty good. I trust it with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Now, for Google Bards, some of the major downsides for it, it has a trouble not being able to answer like really unique queries, unique questions, unique insights.
And unique in what way? Do
It's
you have an example? I can give you,
y-
I'll tell you a situation I ran into the other day that was
yeah,
really
let me hear it.
frustrating, but it was universal. And I didn't think it was that difficult. I was doing keyword research. And so I have a list of all these different keywords, and I wanted to make subgroups. And so, you know, one is blue widgets, the other one will say green widgets, and another one said orange widgets. And I said, okay, any reference to blue widgets, give me a separate list. Any reference to green, and I did it individually because I know if I try and ask it to do blue, green, and orange at the same time, so I just go give me blue widgets. It could not do it for the life of me. And then I would even say, but you just isn't green widget, you know, square green widget, isn't that a green widget? And go, oh, you're right, I made a mistake. I included a green widget in your blue widget response. Let me fix that. And then it gave me the same output. And so I tried it with 3 different AIs. They all failed across the board. Very frustrating.
Yeah.
Sometimes we got to do manual work. Ugh.
Oh, Ryan, I don't know how you deal with it.
I don't know. I tell you, the things I do for my clients.
Well, that's kind of along the same lines that I was going with what it couldn't do, because I was asking it to come up with unique and interesting ways to talk about itself, right? Because I was like, oh, I wonder how it can do that, because ChatGPT can do that with no problem, and Google Bard, it just couldn't do it. And so it could also answer unique queries about the type of information that can be like reworded or restructured. And it just had trouble doing it. So it seems like there's kind of like a disconnect with what Google really wants it to be able to go for and do versus what they've written the code for it to do.
Right.
So because of that, it needs really specific instructions.
Okay. And it's interesting because I have no idea, you know, on the back end, all the coding, how they figure that out. But as far as like, how do you, I mean, there's just so much that goes into it. If you're the project manager, trying to prioritize things that's got to be interesting. You know, where do we
it's a business
on?
In itself.
Yeah. Like, crazy.
It's a business in itself. There's so many people working on this, and they've been working on it for years and years. So
yeah,
I'm sure they've got that project task list. It's a mile long.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is that when you log out of your Google profile and everything, the chats disappear. So it doesn't stay the same way it does with ChatGPT. And I think that's part of Google's philosophy of dealing with privacy concerns.
Privacy. Okay. So does that mean you don't have access to it, but they're still storing it as a backup somewhere, or are they supposedly flushing the information from their servers?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure Google's told us.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But if it's deleting it, then if there's something there that you want to reference, you need to copy it or do whatever, because when you log out, it won't be there anymore.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That is good to know.
Okay, and so I've got a couple of examples coming up, but just an overview for them. So the capabilities of what Google Bard does when you use it, unlike ChatGPT, what it shows is that it has the response that it is given for you, and then it has 3 options of other drafts right above it, so that you can kind of look at it and see if you like one more than the other. They're all pretty similar most of the time, but it's just a good option to have, and it's a different way of doing it.
Right. You know, I don't know if I've recognized that. Is there like 3 dots or something you got to click on for that option?
Yeah, I'll show you when we go to it, but it's just a little drop down click, and it says, you know, review other drafts, and there it is.
Okay, very cool. Because the one thing and I'd be curious if the people watching have the same experience. The one thing I don't like about their UI right now is when I want to copy whatever output, I have to click the button down at the bottom, which then gives me the option to actually copy it, where ChatGPT actually has the copy button right there. You just click, and it's like, I'm going to be copying a lot of stuff, and I'm sure a lot of users are. Why are you making me go through the extra click? We should just have a copy icon right there that does it for us. But that's fine. They'll fix it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet they will.
Yeah.
The audio input is new and not something that I've used with ChatGPT, because you can just click on your phone or your tablet or on your laptop, your computer. You just hit
Hmm.
the little microphone, and then it listens, and you can record your questions and queries that way, which is pretty neat.
Okay.
I
So
think it's new.
basically, we're talking Alexa, or this is a
Yeah,
similar function. I haven't played with it either, so I don't know.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay.
It's pretty similar to that, and it doesn't do the little like Apple roll up thing, and then the wheels turn and stuff.
Right.
It just says go, and then you
Hmm.
record it.
Okay. Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
they got that UI right.
okay, good. And then what's this location, location, location?
What is it? What's the rule in real estate? Everything
Right.
about real estate is on three things: location, location, location,
Right.
sensitivity. So Google is great about how their Google search will pull up where things are in relation to you as a
Hmm.
user, so that when you pull something up, if you're traveling and you're going through, whatever state or county you're in, it'll pull up what's near where you are instead of what's popular on Google, as a whole.
Right.
And Google Bar does that too. So it's
Hmm.
directly connected in. So I'll show you when we put up here, but I asked it to give me the news for today, for where I'm at, and it did it within a couple of seconds and bullet pointed it for me and highlighted it up. And it's just going to be able to only improve and get smoother and easier for us to do that when we're using it on our phones.
Right. With these new capabilities, I don't know if you've ever seen where people put touch. Actually, is it a touch? I don't know how they do it, but they'll put it behind glass. So it's they'll take a big monitor and they'll put it behind a glass window, like in a bathroom. So it has the weather and it has, here's your calendar and, what's the news and those types of things. It will be interesting when we have that AI integration into it, where it's already got your favorite video channel or your favorite news piece or your favorite podcast. It's already ready to go when it senses you coming into the room.
Yeah, I think that was called Minority Report.
Yeah, could have been. Could have been.
So like
That's
so like
things to
people
look
have it where
forward
like
to, huh?
they have their mirrors, and then they like take their iPad and put it behind the mirror so that it can be
Yeah.
seen through it, and
So
then
yeah,
they
because you etch the
tell it.
reflective material, but they'll actually do a large, like a 20-inch or a 32-inch. So it's this big display, and because you etch the reflective material on the mirror, you can actually see it. And then it's hooked up to a little small PC somewhere, and it's pretty neat. The ones I've been doing, I've seen people probably been doing it for over 5 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, uh, just gave you some plans for the weekend, didn't I?
No, no, no. I'm sitting here thinking like I'm like, I wonder if like do you want your phone in your bathroom all the time and have it turned on?
Right. Yeah.
So with Google Bard and getting back on track to what is relevant for the audience, unless they want to hear about remodeling, the way that View Other Drafts works is, like we said, if you just want to figure out, hey, I'm trying something new, I want to cook some tortillas, but I don't want to burn them. What's the best way to do it? It gives you the bullets there, but then it
Hmm.
also, when you click View Other Drafts, you see that little arrow, and it
Yep.
has 3 drafts right up there for you to look at and see which one's better. Now, I don't know yet if Google has been able to have like a 99% accuracy for simple requests like this, because like this example is like we all can cook tortillas the same way without burning them, right?
Hmm.
Like it's pretty standard. But it's different when it's like, what's the best way to do a content calendar for my business, right? Then it
Right.
changes. So something like this, I would really like it for that UI to have it to where those little green barred stars that are there on the other side of it say, this is 99% accurate the way you do it,
Mm.
or like
Hmm.
Uncle Rico approved from Napoleon Dynamite.
Right.
But like something to where simple stuff like this, you can pull it up and it's like on search. Because when we pull it up on Google search, like we can see the websites and then we can see the reviews and we can verify like if it's trusted or not. Well, you can't do that here. And with like this type of format. So that's just my personal request for Google if they're listening to kind of have that in there so you can see it. I imagine that within a year, we'll have that Google search connected into it to where you'll see it, what I'm asking for automatically.
Right. Yep.
Because right now you have to scroll down and then hit Google search and then it pops it open. And then you start seeing all that stuff that I talked about.
Right. Right. Yeah. That'll be interesting. And I imagine it will, because obviously from a Google point of view, you know, when ChatGTP blew up in the first place, it was like, ooh, how is this going to affect search? How is it going to, you know, because if I don't have to go on Google anymore, I can just, you know, type in the ChatGTP and it just gives me an answer. And then, of course, the skeptic inside of me and the conspiracy theorist was like, ooh, now they're going to be able to change history and change all the things, right? Because if we're all being fed from the same database, how easy is it to manipulate information if people want? Not that they would. So I like that idea. And then ideally,
and also,
there's somebody actually fact checking it, right? And going,
right.
99% sounds legit.
Yeah. And, you know, it's really important for, you know, small businesses that are going to be using Google Bard to help with their search profile to be able to know, like, is the algorithm still reading SEO the same way, or is it changed, you know, with the way Google Bard is going to connect it in? You know, what are those changes going to be? So it'll be interesting to see what Google does, how they like share that information so that we can know about it, or, you know, maybe they try to keep it hidden and we can let you pull out your conspiracy hat finder and figure out how to do it.
Fair enough.
So when we were using Google Bard with the audio, all you have to do is just click down on the bottom right there and hit that little podcast microphone, and it just listens to you and it does it. I was kind of expecting it to be rough and the interface to be clunky, and it wasn't at all. It happened within seconds. It was super smooth, and then it answered it like pretty much almost the same way that it did when I wrote it out.
Right. And you know, the fact is Google's been using Hey Google for I don't know how many years. So I think their ability to recognize speech and of course I just said that and my phone went, hey, what's going on? What do you want to talk about? So it'll be interesting the results I get here. But I mean, they've been doing this for years and years and years. So I think that is definitely a feature that should be working very efficiently at this point.
Yeah, and it won't really matter for, you know, if you're using a your laptop or computer a lot, but on our phone, I mean, it is way easier to use voice to text.
Right. Yeah, and I'm trying to do this on a phone. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Much rather have that conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so the location sensitivity. This is also called geolocation. This is a big deal. Like, this is a really big deal. This is probably, out of everything we're going to talk about today, the most important thing for everyone to take away from this talk today is how Google Bard is connected to location service and geolocation. And your business, if it's not connected to that, is essentially invisible on the internet. And you will have no visibility. You won't pop up. And so you really need to make sure for your business that you are.
All right. And when you say connected, you're talking about Google My Business, I'm assuming. Make sure you have that account set up.
Yeah. If you don't, you're just invisible.
Right.
And I know that might be hard to stomach if you don't want to share everything, but if you don't do it, it's like having a store that is just cardboard in the front, and there's no actual store in front, right? Yeah. Like no one can use it, access it, and you can't help your clients and customers.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things that should be one of the first things you do besides setting up a website for a business is getting that Google My Business. So if anybody out there doesn't have that or not sure if they have that, just go and Google My Business and log in. It'll just ask you to type in your business, and it'll let you know if it's been verified or if you've already claimed it or if somebody else has claimed it. But yeah, super important.
Yeah. Yeah. Alrighty. Oh, and this is exciting. So what's next? Some updates that are coming through. Google is actively working on typing text to image. So for those of you graphic designers and graphic artists and photographers, this is going to not compete with what you do, but it's important to understand how Google is evolving with this so that you know which stock images you can kind of just type in and create and use it versus when you really need a personal connection with a professional photographer to do it in the real world, a graphic designer to really edit it and to do it in the real world. But for like simple fun stuff, I think this is going to be a big deal for a lot of people.
And I know, I'm trying to remember, I think it's Microsoft. I used I cannot think of the name of it right now, but pretty sure it's Microsoft. They have a pretty good one where you type in a description. And so like for a blog post, if you're creating an image for your blog post, so typically you're going to have a picture plus text on that blog post. A lot of times I'll just go into the Microsoft tool and type in the title, and I'll tell it that this is, blog post, make sure it's landscape. So I want it wide, not square or portrait. And it pops up, but then it gives you like 5 different options. And just like Canva, it layers everything. So if you want to change a color on something, if you want to change a font, move font around, it's just basically giving you some options. Click one, modify it as you want, save it, done. So much easier.
Yeah. And you mentioned Canva. I use Canva a lot, and they should be terrified of this. Like they should really be terrified.
They don't have anything yet?
That's what they're working on. They're having like a magic generated kind of thing, but it is nowhere near what this is actually being worked on. And they absolutely must get that to be an exceptional product they can provide, because let me say this in non-business terms. They will slowly die as a business.
Correct.
If Google can do this better. Like it may take 10 years because Canva's the best. They've been around for 10 years and they're the best right now. But Google will find a way to undercut you, and this is how.
It's I'm sorry, it was bugging me. I couldn't think of the name, so I just looked it up. It's Microsoft Designer. So if anybody is looking for a simple AI graphic, and like you said, you're not going to generate compelling high-end stuff. However, if you need something quick, simple, or even just for ideas, they do a pretty good job. It's impressive for just typing in a couple of words. And you get access to free stock photos. So if you're paying for a stock photo service, you don't have to pay for it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a benefit too.
Okay. So I have to say that this has not been formally announced to my knowledge, but I 100% do not see Google and YouTube not connecting on Google Bard as part of its search.
Yeah.
I don't see that not happening in any way. There's probably a lot of coding and work that they have to do that, and to filter it out from the internet and YouTube. I'm sure it's remarkable how difficult it would be.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's what they should do.
Right. And YouTube already transcribes everything, and their transcription is so much better than it was, say, 5 years ago. It used to be terrible 5 years ago. And what it puts out now is wonderful. And I've got a nice plug-in. So especially for podcast, if, they always give you that really compelling title and you're like, I want to know what this is. And it's buried 45 minutes in a 2-hour podcast, but you don't know where it's at. So I just love hitting summarize. It automatically takes the transcribed audio from the video, and it runs it through AI and gives me kind of a news version of what they're talking about. Absolutely love it.
Awesome. I'm just sitting here thinking like, I want that. So, and then the last thing you're going to be, I don't have that. The last thing, this LLM is large language model. So that's just a fancy term for what Google Bard is, and it's just going to they're having a lot of improvements being done on it. It's the main ones that really impact people that are in small business is going to be geolocation services, and then typing text to image, and eventually connected in with YouTube. So those are kind of the practical improvements that are coming about. I would say, I hope, like I was talking about earlier, that they connect in with search and they have a verification where they show a source or someone that because that's what the one thing about search that we do have is that you kind of have that like social, like credibility when you pop it up, because you can see who's rated it and who's not. And you can't do that on Google Bard yet. And I really hope that they do that.
Trying to think, because it must be a plugin maybe with ChatGTP or something where it'll actually give you references of where it got the information.
It is a plugin, because it doesn't do it on the regular one.
Yeah. Which I think that's a brilliant idea, because if it's hypercritical, if it's business related or something, having those references that you can then go manually check instead of just, well, it says it's 98% sure that it's going to be sunny tomorrow. We'll just accept it for what it is.
Well, I mean, with the way weather is, meteorology is the only job. Meteorology is the only job that you can be wrong every day and not get fired.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the weather, I'm like, just get it close. Like, do I need a jacket or do I not? Do I need an umbrella or not? Like,
Yeah. I was playing with the guy. I was playing pickleball this morning, and here in Georgia, it's been a little, it's one of those things. You look at the weather and it just says rain for the next 4 days, but then you wake up and it's like, it's not that bad. It's dry outside. And so I haven't been playing in the morning. And so I was like, talking to one of the guys, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's nice to be able to get out this morning. He goes, I just wake up and look out the window. It tells me everything I need to know. I go, yeah. Sometimes you just got to keep it simple, folks. Keep it simple.
Man, we can't do that in Tennessee. We'll get 4 seasons in a day.
Fair enough. All righty, sir. Anything else you'd like to add regarding Google Bard?
Yeah, I just want to kind of piggyback off what you mentioned earlier about making sure people's Google profile, business profile is updated and they have that connected in for their geolocation services. Really can't emphasize that enough. If they don't have it, Google Bard is not going to see you. And if Google Bard doesn't see you when it does a search, you're not going to exist on the internet, at least. And so you try Google Bard out, connect it in, like create a Google profile or connect it with yours, give it a shot, kind of see if you like it or not, see if you like how it can interface with and connect in with your Google Suite and your Gmail, and maybe speed up some of those emails you got to do, and kind of tinker with it. It's going to be different than ChatGPT, but it has more structure. So for some people that might be a plus.
Right. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing for me with Google Bard is the fact that it is connected to the internet. So if I want to know what's going on now, it has that. Google has a tremendous amount of experience with search, keyword, and understanding what converts. I think it's EEAT, if I'm not mistaken. I forget what the acronym stands for. But essentially, be a website that creates authority, trust, and all of those types of things. And so since Google is the one that is making the playbook, why not ask it for help if it is Google related, such as search, keyword, marketing, those type of things? Just to me, it makes sense. I always call it playing their playground. If you want to be, if you want to play with the big boys, go to their playground, play in their playground. And again, you might find that there are certain things that are easier to do on Bard, or you get better results, I should say, on Bard than you do ChatGTP. And I think and hopefully nobody tries to be the end all be all. It's one of those things, if they all try and be everything, they're going to be okay. So hopefully we start recognizing where these different platforms are really good at. Like I like platforms that are specific for writing. They've already tailored their AI for writing. So it just makes life a lot easier. I was just, I emailed myself. I spend too much time on the iPad just watching AI stuff. And so there's a free service, and I think it's attached to Google. I forget, or it might be Microsoft. but they actually have copywriting. And one of the things you can do is they have a separate field for URLs. So, from an SEO point of view, one of the things that you always want to do is don't just write an article, but write an article and then have internal links within your website. Well, if you just go to the Chat GTP, unless I've got a prompt that embeds them, but a lot of people are creating content, then they post it on their website, then they have to manually go through and find out where to embed those links and manually do it. There are ways to do that manually. And so some of the AI that's out there that is for website SEO content creation, they just have a field that's separate that goes, put 3 to 5 links right here, and we'll naturally embed them. And what's great about the AI is that assuming your link URL makes sense, it's not just blog post 1, 2, 3, but it actually has a description of what the blog post is about. This is why blue widgets are the best. It now knows, it has context for what that post is about, so it can naturally embed the best blue widgets link. So it's just going to get easier and easier as time goes on.
We'll have a podcast on that.
We should. Yeah. So, all right, sir, anything else?
No, that's it from my end.
All right, perfect. As always, I appreciate your time. And for everybody out there watching, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, thoughts, or something else you'd like to share, feel free to leave those comments below. We're always looking for feedback and ideas for future episodes. So if there's something you're curious about, you'd like us to talk about it, just let us know. Until next time, everybody, take care.